Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, debt slaves, serfs, peasants, bastards, minions, meat sacks. I'm useful idiot. Welcome. And so there's war fever in Europe, and it seems inexplicable to me, although I have some theories. And Europe is definitely getting on a war footing. And one example of that is the German premier just recently gave a speech and talked about the fact that they were already at war with Russia, and that there was a lot of hybrid warfare going on already with hacking and systems interruptions and the like, which is kind of normal between a lot of countries in the world today. So wouldn't necessarily say that was a state of war, but that kind of inflammatory rhetoric is getting to be a normal thing in Europe. And then we also have the component that Trump has made it clear that if they don't contribute to NATO and do their fair share, and the fact that the United States basically gave a bunch of money to Ukraine while Europe gave them loans. And so Europe has gotten the impression that they're on their own. And to a certain extent, that's true. But I find it ironic that Europe, rather than contributing more to NATO and having the security of the United States offering to defend Europe, they've taken another road where they're going to spend trillions on rearmament in Europe, and that seems kind of perplexing. And then we have a number of things that have been happening recently that shows that Europe is going to continue in a war footing. And one example of that is the $870 billion of rearmament in Europe financed by debt. So we have a EU that's already laden with incredible debt, with all of their economies under pressure, and the fact that countries like Germany have deindustrialized, and now they're talking about amping up rearmament, and they've also talked about creating a European army. Well, they already have a NATO army with European components. I'm not sure why they feel the need to create a European army. But one of the other things that's ironic about this, of course, is that we've had a couple of decades, and Brexit was a axis by which a lot of this revolved around. Two decades of government pressure to slash welfare programs and public investment to deal with their economic woes. And now all of a sudden, out of the blue, they want to spend trillions of dollars moving forward the next few years based on debt to finance war. So that sounds all too familiar. Countries that sacrifice the welfare of their own citizens, but they're always able to come up with extravagant amounts of money for war. But so we have the war rhetoric, and then we have this discussion about already being at war with Russia due to hybrid attacks. And then we have the EU raising tensions. So the United States and the Trump administration trying to lower tensions between Ukraine and Russia, and the EU wants to exacerbate those efforts. Not only did they help undermine a lot of previous peace efforts, but a lot of European countries and politicians have talked about the need to make sure that the Ukraine war goes on longer. And then we have a lot of talk about European countries like the UK wanting to put their troops in Ukraine, which will only exacerbate the situation even more. Putin has made it clear that doesn't want any foreign troops in Ukraine, and that it would only exacerbate the situation. And then we have a bunch of different events going on now that are kind of chilling. France is distributing 20-page survival manuals telling all their citizens how to live under war conditions. And then we also have UK getting their special forces ready to go to the Ukraine. Turkey's offered troops for the Ukraine. Poland is contemplating starting a draft of all eligible males. The Baltic states have been constructing a defensive line, including 600 bunkers, and it just seems like they're getting ready for a war, and they've stated it in no uncertain terms. And the reason why that's problematic for me, and I know I have a different opinion of a lot of people, a lot of people have bought into the status narrative about Russia and Ukraine and why that war happened, and more importantly, what Russia's intentions are. And this whole premise that the Europeans have built up that Russia is invading Ukraine because they want to take over all of Ukraine to be part of Russia, and that it will not stop there, that it will move into the Baltic states and attack the rest of Europe, which I'm sorry, I think that's preposterous. It's not that I think Putin is such a good guy, but I don't think that Russia has any intention of rebuilding the Soviet Union, let alone a Russian empire. I don't believe for a minute that Russia has any intention to moving past Ukraine. They don't even want to take over the rest of Ukraine. They want to basically um, free the breakaway regions in Donbass. They want to retain Crimea, and that's their special military operation. And it has a whole set of history that has nothing to do with this idea that they're going to invade Europe. And so one has to look at the fact that they're doing this and what are the reasons? Well, part of it is to deflect Trump and his calls for them to contribute more to NATO, and talks about the idea of even not participating in NATO. So they want to demonstrate their independence and their willingness to move forward and be a military power. And the fact is, a lot of European countries don't have that large of militaries anymore. They have a lot of recruitment problems as well. Nobody wants to go into these foreign operations, just like people in the United States, citizens of the United States don't want to, and recruitment problems in the United States. People don't want to be involved in these empire wars anymore. And so I look at some of the possible reasons, and one thing that keeps jumping out at me is that their economies are crumbling. They're deindustrialized. Their militaries have shrunk. And one surefire way that history has proven to work is rearmament. So they stimulate their economies and their political stature by rearmament and building armies, and they can reindustrialize. For example, in Germany, they can reconfigure um, Volkswagen plants to construct military equipment. And then that would be a good example of what I'm talking about, because Volkswagen is struggling and Germany's been deindustrialized. One way to turn that around is to get involved in mass rearmament, and the fact that they're willing to not only invest or spend trillions and trillions of dollars moving into the future in the next few years, but the fact that they're willing to borrow to do it. And so that's a great way to cover up their economic problems, is to get involved in rearmament and take a war footing. And are they seem very warlike right now? Are they going to push for further confrontations with Russia just to make their point? I'm not really sure, but this seems like a disturbing trend to spend trillions of dollars, get into massive rearmament, build up their armies for an invasion from Russia that's never going to come. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too?